The story opens with a stark warning. Danger, high voltage. A sign that hints at the desperate measures to come. A man in a dark hood clutches a handful of cables, his mind racing. If they catch him, it's all over. His pursuers grab him, their faces twisted with anger. But their prey hasn't given up yet. He screams in his mind, "I can't get caught!" Cornered and with no way out, he makes a final, desperate choice. He won't be taken back. Not ever again. He brings the live wires together. Blue sparks crackle as a massive amount of electricity begins to surge through them. A blinding flash of light erupts, engulfing everything in a chaotic blast of pure energy. As the electricity surges through them, he screams that he'd rather die. Their bodies are instantly fried, reduced to nothing but skeletons. But for him, death isn't an option, because within his chest lies a heart of resurrection. 3 days later, his body is a charred skeletal husk, but the glowing heart in his chest commands him, "Do not die." It seems he's not the only one. There are others out there with mutated hearts, each possessing a unique and strange power. Some hearts are covered in eyes, while others seem to be made of pure, crystalline energy. These powers are diverse and dangerous, like this hooded figure who can control nature itself, commanding thick vines to grow at will. The vines become deadly weapons, ensnaring and crushing anyone who stands in their way. But our protagonist, Kim Ji-oh, possesses no such offensive power. He's just a man in a skeletal body, forced to dig through trash in a desolate junkyard. He shoves his head deep into a garbage can, desperately searching for anything to eat. He sits defeated amidst the filth, lamenting that his special heart has only brought him misery and ruin. His eyes land on a piece of moldy, discarded bread. For him, this is a feast. Without a moment's hesitation, he shoves the stale bread into his mouth, the hunger pangs momentarily silenced. As he sits there, a small stray dog cautiously approaches him, its tail wagging hopefully. Despite his own hunger, Ji-oh holds out the rest of his food, offering it to the small animal. He gently encourages the dog to eat, a small act of kindness in a world that has shown him none. Suddenly, he's surrounded. His simple act of charity has drawn the attention of all the other strays in the junkyard. But then, he hears a strange noise nearby. Ji-oh cautiously peers around the corner, a wide, unsettling grin on his skeletal face as he investigates the sound. He spots a group of thugs cornering a young high school student. She clutches a bag of pet food, looking scared and trying to get away. Watching from the shadows, Ji-oh's vacant expression sharpens. The sight of bullies preying on someone weaker stirs something within him. One of the thugs puts his hand on the girl's shoulder, his intentions clear. She flinches, clutching the bag of dog food tightly. She had only come here to feed the stray animals, a simple act of kindness in a rough neighborhood. But before the thugs can do anything, a figure steps out from the shadows, blocking their path. They turn to face the newcomer, confused by the strange, silent person who just appeared. Ji-oh looks up, revealing his terrifying skeletal face. The thugs freeze, their smug expressions instantly replaced with pure shock and fear. He takes a menacing step forward, holding a piece of scrap metal like a weapon. The message is clear. Leave her alone. Terrified by the monster before them, the thugs scramble to get away, tumbling over each other in their haste to escape. Now alone with her savior, the girl, Song Hae-ji, is paralyzed with fear, her eyes wide with shock. Ji-oh reaches out towards her, but he isn't trying to hurt her. He's pointing at the bag of dog food she dropped. Realizing what he wants, Hae-ji cautiously opens the bag. Ji-oh immediately starts stuffing the kibble into his mouth, much to her surprise. She watches him, a mix of fear and pity on her face. He saved her, but he's also eating dog food. She realizes the bag she brought was for the strays he was taking care of. This creature wasn't a monster, he was just hungry. He eats greedily, the first meal he's had in days, completely unaware of the girl watching him. As he eats, the stray dogs he befriended earlier return, gathering around him. At the same time, Hae-ji runs off, leaving him alone. Ji-oh looks up, confused. He wonders if he scared her away with his monstrous appearance. He shoves more of the dog food into his mouth, the familiar feeling of being abandoned, settling in. But then, Hae-ji reappears, peeking around the corner. She hadn't run away in fear after all. Ji-oh collapses, overwhelmed by hunger and exhaustion. He questions his own existence, wondering what he even is anymore. Hae-ji watches him with a concerned expression, her initial fear replaced by a growing sense of empathy. She steps forward, startling the dogs and getting Ji-oh's attention. The bag of dog food lies forgotten on the ground. With trembling hands, she pulls a sandwich out of her backpack and holds it out to him. She stammers, offering him the food. It's a simple sandwich, but for Ji-oh, it's the first act of human kindness he's received in a very long time. He stares down at the dog food in his hand, then looks at the sandwich she's offering. A choice between animal scraps and human food. His bony hand trembles as he slowly reaches out, hesitantly accepting the sandwich she's offering. He stares at the wrapped sandwich, a look of pure wonder on his face. After so long, this is the first time someone has treated him not as a monster, but as a person. He devours the sandwich with a hunger he hasn't satisfied in years, the simple taste of real food overwhelming his senses. For the first time in ages, Gio feels a warmth spread through him, a blush appearing on what little flesh remains on his face. This simple sandwich feels like a miracle. It was more than just a sandwich. It was a taste of a life he thought he'd lost forever. While he eats, Hyeji smiles, petting the stray dogs that flock to her. She seems completely at ease, an angel of kindness in this forgotten alley. She asks him why he was eating dog food. Her voice is gentle, without a hint of judgment. Gio explains that since he's a monster, he figured that's what he should eat. He says it so casually, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Heiji laughs, telling him he's not a monster at all. Her bright, genuine smile cuts through the gloom that has surrounded him for so long. As they sit together, a comfortable quiet falls between them. Heiji asks for his name, and he simply replies, Monster. Her expression softens. She insists that he's not a monster, and asks again, her voice filled with a sincere curiosity. Gio sits silently, lost in thought. The concept of having a name, of being a person, feels so alien to him now. Heiji misinterprets his silence, thinking she might have upset him. She worries that maybe he just doesn't remember his name. Her kindness triggers a flood of painful memories. Gio clutches his head as the trauma of his past comes rushing back. He remembers the endless experiments, being chained up and force-fed poisons they called new drugs. Heiji watches, her concern growing, as she sees him tremble, completely unaware of the horrifying images flashing through his mind. He remembers his body melting away, his flesh sloughing off his bones, only for his heart to resurrect him again and again for another round of torture. He grips his head, the memories too much to bear. He believes his very existence will only bring danger and misfortune to this kind girl. Convinced he's a danger to her, Gio makes a decision. He has to run, to disappear from her life, before he brings his cursed world crashing down on her. Heiji calls out to him, asking where he's going. She tells him to wait, that she'll be back tomorrow. But he doesn't stop. He flees, convinced he's doing the right thing. To his surprise, however, she chases after him, grabbing his arm to stop him. She holds onto him tightly, refusing to let him go. She can't understand why he's suddenly running away. Her grip is firm, a stark contrast to his own frail, bony hand. A human connection he feels he doesn't deserve. He looks back at her, a strange feeling blooming in his chest. No one has ever tried this hard to keep him from leaving before. And then, the unthinkable happens. As he tries to pull away, his arm pops right off at the joint, leaving Heiji holding his dismembered limb. She screams, shaking the detached arm around in a panic. Gio can only watch, just as shocked as she is by this sudden turn of events. Heiji finally collapses, overwhelmed by the absurdity of it all. Gio awkwardly tries to wave, assuring her he's mostly okay, as she promises through her tears to see him tomorrow. The next day, Heiji keeps her promise and returns. But she doesn't come empty-handed. She brought him new clothes, and even a wig. Gio looks on, utterly bewildered. With a cheerful grin, she presents the shopping bags to him, ready to give him a complete makeover. Her smile is bright and full of determination. She's decided to take this monster under her wing. Gio is hesitant. He tells her she really didn't have to do all this for him. He's not used to anyone going out of their way for him. He strikes a dramatic pose, insisting he's a monster who should be left alone in the dark. But Heiji isn't buying his theatrics. She gets to work, first trying to apply some makeup to his face to give him a more human complexion. She gently dabs the foundation puff on his skeletal cheek, explaining that this should help him blend in a little better. The end result is questionable. With lipstick smeared on his teeth, blush on his cheekbones, and a new pair of glasses, he looks more like a clown than a human. Heiji covers her face, trying to stifle her laughter. She admits to herself that he hasn't seen a mirror yet, and maybe that's for the best. She peeks through her fingers, a mix of amusement and embarrassment on her face. Her makeover attempt was a complete disaster. Suddenly, her phone rings, and she sees that she has over a dozen missed calls from her mom. She completely lost track of time. She quickly says her goodbyes, waving to Gio as she rushes off. He just stands there, watching her go, still processing everything that just happened. As she disappears into the city, Gio is left alone with his pack of stray dogs, the silence of the junkyard returning. He thinks about Heiji, a small, genuine smile forming on his face. Her kindness is starting to chip away at the walls he's built around himself. She's a whirlwind of energy and compassion, a bright light in his dark world. He raises a fist, feeling a new sense of determination. He lies down, and the dogs immediately swarm him, licking his face affectionately. For the first time, he doesn't feel like a monster. He feels loved. But his peace is short-lived. The memory of the sterile lab and the cold, calculating eyes of the researchers still haunts his every waking moment. He can't shake the feeling that as long as he's alive, people around him will get hurt. The people who chase him will stop at nothing to get him back. He looks at the dogs sleeping peacefully around him, and thinks of Heiji. He knows he has to protect this small pocket of happiness he's found. He gently pets one of the dogs, a soft blush on his cheeks. Their simple affection is something he's never known before. One of the dogs licks his glasses, a playful gesture that brings a genuine smile to his face. He closes his eyes, savoring the moment. It's a feeling of peace he never thought he'd experience again. He finally feels safe. But then, he remembers Heiji's promise to come back tomorrow, a promise that fills him with both hope and dread. He knows what he has to do. For her safety, he can't let her get any closer. He has to disappear before she returns tomorrow. Tears well up in his eyes, spilling onto the dusty ground. The thought of giving up this connection is painful, but he believes it's the only way to keep her from harm. He looks over his shoulder one last time, a tear tracing a path down his skeletal cheek. His decision is made. With a heavy heart, he takes a step into a puddle, the ripple marking the beginning of his lonely journey. As he walks away, the dogs he befriended begin to whine and bark, confused and sad to see their gentle friend leaving them behind. He forces himself not to look back, his shoulders slumped with the weight of his sacrifice. He has to keep her safe, even if it means being alone again. He wanders through the empty streets, a solitary figure disappearing into the maze of the city. He doesn't have a destination, he just knows he has to keep moving. His journey eventually leads him to a desolate, abandoned area near the city's edge, a place where a monster like him can disappear without a trace. But his body, still weak and malnourished, can't keep up. He stumbles, his ribcage visible through his torn clothes as he struggles to stay upright. Finally, he collapses onto the cold concrete, surrounded by trash and empty bottles. His attempt to run away has ended in failure. As he lies there, a small mouse scurries past. In his delirium, he grabs it, reminded of the desperation that drove him to eat dog food just a day ago. He lets the mouse go, slumping against a wall. The energy to even hunt for food has left him completely. He stares down at his hands, which are still covered in the remnants of dog food. He's reminded of the strays he left behind, and a pang of guilt hits him. But then, another image flashes in his mind. The delicious-looking sandwich that Heiji gave him. A symbol of hope and a life he could maybe have. He sits up, a new thought occurring to him. He examines the dog food in his hand, realizing that the brown kibbles are made of meat. Maybe it's not so bad after all. His eyes widen with a manic glee. An idea sparks in his mind, a strange but brilliant solution to his hunger problem. He turns to one of the stray dogs that has somehow followed him, a wild look in his eyes. He shoves the food in the dog's face, a desperate attempt to share his discovery. His sudden outburst terrifies the poor dog, who can only stare back, confused and scared. Gio collapses again, defeated. The dog, sensing his despair, licks up the spilled food. It seems his small act of kindness has created a bond he can't easily break. The dogs need him. He understands now. He can't just run away. These animals and maybe even Heiji have come to rely on him. He smiles, a single tear rolling down his face. He's not alone anymore. Just then, a voice cuts through the silence. It's Heiji. She found him. Her face is a mixture of relief and frustration. She stands over him and scolds him for leaving without a word. But she wasn't angry. She was scared. In a dusty lot, a pack of stray dogs enjoys a rare feast, a meal shared with their unusual friend. Song Heiji gently pets one of the dogs, apologizing softly. In the background, Kim Jio sits alone, a silent observer wrapped in his own world. Jio finally speaks, his voice raspy. He asks her why she came back for him, not understanding her kindness. Heiji just gives him a warm smile, telling him not to worry about it. She simply felt it was the right thing to do. Suddenly, one of the dogs affectionately licks his face. For a moment, the lonely boy looks startled, caught off guard by the simple gesture of warmth. It turns out Heiji didn't just come back, she brought a mountain of snacks from the convenience store. She unpacks everything from her backpack, laying out a small feast for him right there in the junkyard. She even prepares a special treat, carefully pouring milk over a box of chocolate chip cookies. With a gentle expression, she offers the simple dessert to him, along with a small card. Looking down at the food, Gio is overwhelmed. It's been so long since anyone showed him this kind of care. Tears begin to stream down his face. The taste of the sweet milk and cookies is a shock to his system, a reminder of a life he thought he'd lost forever. Seeing his dramatic reaction, Heiji can't help but giggle, lightening the heavy mood between them. But then, in a flash, Gio's arm detaches at the elbow. Blood sprays as he looks on with an unnerving calmness. Before she can react, his dismembered forearm flies forward, impaling her through the chest. Heiji's eyes widen in absolute shock and pain. As she stares in horror, the bloody, skeletal fingers gently touch her face. A faint red glow emanates from the fingertips, and the wound on her cheek begins to heal instantly. With his arm still missing, Gio calmly places his hand on his chest, beginning to explain the terrifying nature of his power. He tells her that he's a monster, a being that can regenerate but also bring danger to anyone close to him. Hyeji listens, her expression a mix of fear and fascination. He explains the source of his power, the heart of resurrection, a terrifying organ that grants him immortality at a terrible cost. He warns her that he's being hunted by the people who created him, and that staying with him will only put her in grave danger. His eyes are filled with a deep sadness as he insists that she must leave him for her own safety. Looking at his own hand, he remarks on how his regeneration is slow, a constant reminder that he is not truly human. Hyeji listens, a bead of sweat running down her face. She finally understands the weight of the secret he carries. Gio looks at her, his expression pleading. He tells her this is her last chance to walk away and forget she ever met him, for her own good. But instead of running, Hyeji stands up tall, her fear replaced by sudden resolve. She tells him she's not going anywhere. Gio stares, unable to comprehend what she's saying. But Hyeji's expression is dead serious. She drops a bombshell. Her older sister is a police officer, and she's also a heart mutant, just like him. The news hits Gio like a lightning bolt. He's not the only one. He's not alone. The idea of another person like him, a person who might understand, is almost too much to handle. Seeing his shock, Hyeji assures him that if he trusts her, her sister can protect him from the people who are hunting him down. For the first time in a long time, a flicker of hope appears in Gio's eyes, even as he sits amongst the stray dogs that have become his only family. Hyeji beams at him, her smile bright and reassuring. She tells him everything is going to be alright. Gio is left speechless, stunned by this sudden turn of events. A future he never dared to imagine suddenly seems possible. As Hyeji gets ready to leave, she tells the dogs to behave themselves, like a mother saying goodbye to her kids. She gives the dogs one last pat, with Gio standing awkwardly beside her in the new clothes she brought for him. One of the dogs, whom Hyeji calls Potato, looks up with a happy, drooling face. Gio reaches down and gently pats Potato on the head, a quiet moment of connection with the creature who's been by his side. Even so, a deep sense of unease settles over him. He decides he has to leave this place to keep Hyeji and his stray friends out of danger. Hyeji waves goodbye, and the dogs bark farewell from behind the fence, unaware of the decision he's just made. With his new hoodie pulled up to hide his face, Gio sets off, determined to disappear once again. Hyeji watches him go, a hopeful smile on her face, completely unaware of the danger that is lurking just around the corner. As Gio walks down the street, a black van suddenly appears, its headlights fixed right on him. He turns around, but it's too late to react. It's the thugs from before, and they're back for revenge. The van slams into him at full speed, sending his body flying through the air like a ragdoll. He hits the pavement hard, his glasses shattered, his body broken and motionless. At the same time, another thug grabs Hyeji from behind, covering her mouth to stifle her screams. They drag her away, throwing her towards one of their cars while others surround Gio's fallen body. They grab Gio, his body completely limp, and easily overpower him in his weakened state. The thug boss watches from the side, taking a long drag from his cigarette with a smug, cruel look on his face. Even as they hold him down, Gio can only glare back with defiance, his body too broken to fight back. With Hyeji secured in one car, the convoy speeds off down the highway, but they're not finished with Gio just yet. But their cruelty knows no bounds. Instead of taking him with them, they tie a rope around Gio's neck and drag his body behind the speeding car. His body is thrashed against the asphalt, bouncing and scraping across the road at high speed, the friction tearing his clothes and skin to shreds. The pain is unimaginable, but he can do nothing but endure the horrific torture. His fingers are ground down to the bone as he instinctively tries to claw at the pavement, searching for any way to stop the agony. He can only scream, his eyes wide with horror and pain as his body is literally ripped apart. Meanwhile, inside one of the cars, Hyeji is forced to listen to his screams as the thugs hold her down. His hands are now just bloody stumps, the bones exposed from the constant grinding against the road. Every bone in his body feels like it's breaking, every nerve is on fire, but the car just keeps going faster. Lying on the road, shattered and bleeding, Gio can only stare blankly as the torture continues. But then, a glimmer of hope. From the distance, his only friends, the stray dogs, come charging to the rescue. They leap onto his body, biting and tearing at the rope, desperately trying to free him. With their combined strength, they pull with all their might, their loyalty shining through in this dark moment. And then, it happens. The rope snaps in two. He's free. The van screeches to a halt. The dogs have saved him, but now they've drawn the thugs' attention. The loyal dogs gather around Gio's broken body, standing guard over their fallen friend. The car door opens, and the enraged thugs begin to pile out. Gio lies in a heap, his body shredded down to the bone, as the dogs bravely stand between him and the approaching gang, growling and barking furiously. All he can do is whimper, too broken to move, too weak to fight back. But the thugs show no mercy. Armed with pipes and bats, they begin to brutally attack the defenseless animals. Helpless, Gio can only watch as his only friends are beaten to death right in front of him. His body begins to tremble, not from pain, but from an uncontrollable rage. Something inside him snaps. The beings who showed him nothing but kindness, who saw him as family, are being slaughtered because of him. He watches in horror as one of the thugs delivers a fatal blow to Potato, the gentle dog he had bonded with just moments before. With his fingers worn down to bloody stumps, Gio begins to drag his shattered body across the pavement. He ignores his own pain, dragging his shattered body across the pavement, his eyes fixed on the growing pool of blood from his fallen friends. The brutal attack is over in an instant, leaving behind a scene of unbelievable cruelty as the thugs get back in their cars, satisfied with their work. He lies there, surrounded by the bodies of his friends, the only creatures in the world who ever showed him affection. An absolute, bone-deep fury fills his eyes, replacing the pain and despair. Potato. Spotty. As the thugs celebrate their victory, Gio sees the faces of his fallen family, one by one. His mind is screaming. He clenches his teeth, the sound of his friends' dying whimpers echoing in his ears, fueling his rage. His mind flashes back to the 10 years of hell he endured, a life spent in chains, treated like an animal in a lab. He remembers the endless experiments, the constant pain, being force-fed through tubes by figures in hazmat suits. He remembers being burned alive, over and over, his body regenerating only to be destroyed again. He remembers being dissected, torn apart, and put back together, all while scientists watched with cold, detached eyes. He finally managed to escape that nightmare, breaking free and running into the dark woods. But freedom didn't mean peace. He was a monster on the run, his heart glowing like a beacon for his hunters. The outside world was no kinder. People screamed, attacked him, and drove him away, fearing the very sight of him. He found solace only in the trash, a forgotten boy in a forgotten place. But now, something is different. His heart of resurrection begins to throb with a power he's never felt before, a pulsing rhythmic beat that echoes in the silence. An image flashes in his mind. Hyeji's kindness, the warmth of the dogs, the first real happiness he'd felt in a decade. It was the only thing worth fighting for. As his heart glows, the blood of his fallen friends responds. It begins to move, flowing towards him, drawn by the power building in his chest. The blood surges into his broken body, a violent torrent of life absorbed from death. His skeletal frame is engulfed by the crimson tide, fueling an instantaneous and explosive regeneration. The blood swirls around him like a vortex, reshaping him, rebuilding him from the ground up. His hand, once worn down to the bone, is reformed in an instant, perfect and whole. Muscle, skin, and bone knit together at an impossible speed. The monster is being unmade, and a man is being forged in its place. His face reforms, the skull disappearing beneath new flesh. His eyes snap open, glowing with crimson light, burning with a singular purpose: vengeance. He rises from the asphalt, no longer a broken skeleton, but a young man crackling with raw power and cold fury. His body is whole, his power absolute. He looks down at his hands, seeing his restored form for the first time, his gaze promising nothing but retribution. He clenches his newly formed hand, feeling a strength he's never known before. It's a power that has been dormant inside him all along, a strength born from a decade of unimaginable pain. His eyes are cold, empty of fear, and filled with a terrifying resolve. He now stands at the center of the carnage, reborn from the blood of the only family he ever had. Unaware of the transformation, the thugs finally notice he's gone and turn back, ready to finish the job. One of them charges forward, pipe raised high, moving to strike the boy he still thinks is helpless. But in a blur of motion, Gio spins around and delivers a devastating punch straight to the thug's face. The force of the blow is monstrous, shattering bone and sending blood flying. The thug's body is launched like a cannonball, flying backward with incredible speed. He smashes into the side of the van with enough force to cave in the metal, leaving a massive dent as he collapses to the ground, unconscious. But his rage is cold and focused. Gio ignores the remaining thugs and kneels, gently cradling the body of one of his fallen friends. He looks up, his face an emotionless mask, and asks a single, chilling question. Where is she? He makes them a simple offer. The first one who tells him where they took Hyeji gets to live. The remaining thugs are frozen in terror, realizing the monster they thought they killed has been replaced by something far, far worse. Holding the lifeless body of his friend, Gio glares at them, his eyes glowing with an unholy light. He's waiting for an answer, and he won't wait long. In a secluded, dusty lot, a convoy of black sedans pulls up to an isolated warehouse. Inside, a captive has a rough bag pulled over their head. The bag is ripped off, revealing a terrified high school student, Song Hyeji, sweating and shaking. She finds herself on her knees, completely surrounded by a gang of menacing thugs who sneer down at her. Her eyes widen in absolute horror at what she sees in front of her. Just a few feet away, a gruesome scene unfolds. Men in aprons are butchering human bodies with chainsaws and cleavers, surrounded by blood and gore. Before she can even process the sight, a hand violently grabs her by the hair. A man with a nasty scar and a cigarette hanging from his lips yanks her head back. He's covered in blood, clearly one of the butchers. He shoves a photograph in her face, showing a grotesque, half-skeletal figure labeled Test Subject No. 10101. Leaning in close, he growls at her, demanding to know where the man from the photo went. Heji's eyes tremble with fear, unable to answer. Suddenly, the sound of a phone ringing cuts through the tension. Subordinate Scar answers, a smug look on his face as he starts the conversation. On the other end of the line, a voice tells him that a pack of dogs got in the way, and that the skeleton freak they were chasing had turned into a person. The boss's smug expression begins to falter. Hearing this, Heji lets out a small, hopeful gasp. The man on the phone, one of his underlings, confirms the unbelievable story. The boss erupts in a furious rage, screaming into the phone that they lost an investment worth millions. He smashes the phone on the ground in a fit of anger. Turning his fury on Heiji, he grabs her by the collar, demanding to know where the test subject went. "Answer me!" he roars, his face contorted with rage. Heiji winces in pain, her body trembling under his violent grip. Losing all patience, he pulls out a knife, his eyes glowing with malice as he decides to end this now. The cold steel of the blade presses against her throat. Heiji freezes, her life hanging by a thread. With tears streaming down her face, Heiji grits her teeth, bracing for the worst as the blade digs into her skin. The boss raises the knife, ready to deliver the final blow. But just as he's about to strike, one of his men is sent flying past him with a loud crash. Someone has just kicked the door in. The entire gang spins around, startled by the sudden intrusion. They see one of their own, lying broken on the floor. A figure stands silhouetted in the bright light of the doorway, their features hidden in shadow. It's Kim Jio. He has regenerated into a complete human form, his face calm and unreadable. One of the thugs, thinking he's just some kid, charges forward with a knife, shouting at him. But before the thug can even react, Jio's hand is already around his throat, choking the life out of him. Jio gives him a cold, sideways glance, his expression utterly devoid of emotion. With almost no effort, he lifts the struggling gangster into the air by his neck. Enraged, the other thugs rush in from all sides to attack him. One of them lands a solid punch right on his face. But Jio doesn't even flinch. He just calmly takes the hit, a trickle of blood his only reaction. The thug stares in disbelief, his fist still extended. The punch had no effect at all. Jio strikes back with blinding speed, a whirlwind of kicks and punches that sends his attackers flying. Another gangster manages to grab him from behind in a headlock. Jio's head snaps back from a brutal punch, blood flying from his mouth. But his eyes just glow with a cold, red light. He feels nothing. In a flash of movement, he slams the man, holding him headfirst into the concrete floor, shattering it on impact. The remaining thugs and their boss can only watch in stunned silence as their men are taken down one by one. Jio looks up, his eyes burning red with fury. He tells them they made a fatal mistake. They killed his only friends, the dogs. Heiji stares in disbelief, realizing that this unstoppable monster is the same person she tried to help. The gang remembers the creature they were chasing, before a skeletal monster with a glowing red eye. They now understand they are one and the same. The boss, still holding Heiji hostage, just laughs maniacally. He taunts Jio, saying that being able to regenerate won't save him from being captured and sold. Jio's mind flashes back to his past. 10 years of endless torture, chained and broken in a cold, dark laboratory. This is what made him what he is today. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out, and a bullet tears through Kim Jio's shoulder. The gang boss stands there, a smoking pistol in his hand, a cruel smile on his face. At his signal, all his men raise their guns and take aim. They unleash a torrent of bullets, all directed at Jio. His body is riddled with holes, blood and flesh exploding from the impacts. He's thrown backward by the force of the barrage, blood pouring from his wounds, as his flesh is ripped apart, and his bones are shattered by the bullets. Song Heiji can only watch and scream in absolute terror. Jio finally collapses to the ground, his body a bloody, mangled mess. He lies motionless, but then a faint, rhythmic beating begins to echo in the silence. His heart. His mangled fingers begin to twitch as dark, blood-like tendrils emerge, stitching his wounds closed. Lying in a pool of blood, he looks up, his body already starting to mend itself. Deep inside him, the source of his power, a glowing, monstrous heart pulses with energy, fueling his regeneration. Dark tendrils erupt from his body, gruesomely pulling him back to his feet in front of the horrified gangsters. The boss stammers in disbelief, watching as Jio rises like some kind of zombie. The dark tendrils reform his head and neck completely. They continue to fire, but the bullets now pass straight through him as his body instantly regenerates around the holes. He takes multiple shots directly to the face, but they have no effect. He doesn't even blink. The bullets are nothing to him. He simply keeps walking forward as the lead passes through his body. Because for the past 10 years, his life was an endless cycle of being destroyed and remade. The agony he endured in the lab being burned, crushed, and experimented on was far worse than this. Compared to that hell, he thinks, this pain is almost refreshing. A horrifying grin spreads across his face as his bones snap back into place. In the blink of an eye, he's in front of one of the stunned thugs. He unleashes a brutal punch that sends the man flying across the room. Wiping the blood from his mouth, Gio's eyes glow with a predator's light. His hunt has just begun. Blood sprays from the thug's nose as his head snaps back from the force of the blow. The remaining gangsters look on, a mix of fear and desperation on their faces, as they realize they're outmatched. Gio moves to the next, landing another crushing punch that sends a spray of blood and a tooth flying. The man is sent hurtling through the air, crashing into a large metal tank with enough force to dent it. Without pausing, he spins and strikes another thug, a blur of relentless motion. He takes down the rest in quick succession, each blow delivered with brutal efficiency. A brief image flashes in his mind, the memory of the happy, drooling dog, one of his only friends. This is for them. The fight becomes a one-sided slaughter as he tears through the rest of the gang. Finally, only the boss is left. He panics, grabbing Heiji and screaming threats, his bravado gone. But Gio is already on him, silencing him with a devastating punch to the jaw. The impact caves in the side of the boss's face. He follows up with another punch, sending the boss flying into the already dented metal tank, shattering it this time. The boss slumps to the floor, bleeding and broken, staring up at Gio in pure terror. He begins to beg for his life, his voice cracking with fear as he crawls backward. Gio simply looks down on him, his expression cold and merciless. There will be no forgiveness. He lifts his leg and brings his foot down in a savage axe kick. The blow smashes the boss's face into the concrete, cracking the floor beneath him. He doesn't stop there, delivering a furious volley of stomps until the man stops moving for good. Finally, it's over. Gio stands over the unconscious body, his bloody fist trembling slightly. He walks away from the defeated boss, the floor of the warehouse now littered with the bodies of the entire gang. He stands alone in the quiet aftermath, breathing heavily as the rage begins to subside. "Mister," Heiji's voice calls out, soft and uncertain. Gio slowly turns and walks towards her, his expression hidden by his hair. Heiji shrinks back, her body trembling uncontrollably as the blood-soaked figure gets closer. But he doesn't reach for her with violence. Instead, his body goes limp, and he collapses forward, his head landing softly on her shoulder. Stunned, Heiji can only hold him, feeling the full weight of his exhaustion. Resting his head on her shoulder, tears begin to stream down Kim Gio's face. After all the fighting, all the pain, he finally lets his emotions show. Song Heiji's eyes widen in surprise. This wasn't the reaction she was expecting from the unstoppable monster who had just laid waste to an entire gang. Her fear melts away, replaced by a look of understanding and empathy. He cries, telling her he's so glad that she's okay. For the first time in a long time, he has someone he wants to protect. Letting go of her fear, Heiji gently wraps her arms around him, returning the hug. Surrounded by chaos, they find a small moment of comfort and humanity. At the scene of the previous night's massacre, a detective shouts orders, telling his officers to take away the suspects. The police survey the chaotic aftermath. Bodies of the gang members are scattered everywhere, leaving the officers stunned and confused about what could have possibly happened here. Watching from a nearby hill, Kim Gio and Song Heiji stay hidden in the trees as police cars swarm the area below. Heiji whispers to Gio, trying to reassure him that everything is fine now. She even puts on a fake, over-the-top crying face, trying to lighten the mood. But her efforts are in vain. Gio is completely overwhelmed by despair, clutching his head in his hands. The reason for his grief becomes clear. The dogs that had helped him were also casualties of the fight, their bodies lying motionless on the ground. All of them. Gone. Every last one that had treated him with kindness. Tears stream down Heiji's face as she holds one of the fallen dogs, mourning the loss of these brave animals. She gently pets its head, her heart aching for Gio's loss. Suddenly, a grim determination flashes across Gio's face. He bites down hard on his own finger, drawing blood. Heiji looks up, her eyes wide with shock and confusion at what he's doing. Ignoring her, he holds his bleeding finger over the dog's mouth, letting a single drop of blood fall. A strange, dark energy seems to swirl from the droplet as it descends. Gio's expression is intense and desperate, pouring all of his hope into this one act. Heiji panics, grabbing his hand and yelling at him, horrified by his self-inflicted wound. With tears in his eyes, Gio looks at her, as if trying to explain that this is the only way. Heiji freezes, her grip loosening as she begins to understand the impossible thing he's attempting. In an instant, the impossible happens. The dogs, once lifeless, spring to their feet, growling with renewed vigor. Gio looks down, a quiet intensity in his eyes. His desperate gamble had paid off. Heiji stares, completely stunned by the miracle she just witnessed. She kneels, her head bowed, processing the fact that Gio can bring the dead back to life. Gio sits with the resurrected dog, gently stroking its head. The animal is weak, but it's alive. A small, knowing smile appears on Heiji's face as she looks at him, finally understanding the nature of his power. The two sit together in the quiet woods, sharing a moment of silence as the resurrected dog rests peacefully by their side. As Heiji looks on, Gio seems to ask her a question about what just happened. Just then, a tiny puppy emerges from the woods, looking up at them with a happy expression. It seems one of them survived after all. The puppy wags its tail and happily trots over to Gio, who watches its approach, still processing the day's events. Tears well up in Gio's eyes as the small puppy, a lone survivor, sits in front of him. He kneels down, his gaze softening as he looks at the innocent creature. The puppy licks his hand, showing no fear. Gio gently scoops up the tiny animal. He holds the puppy close, a small warmth in the midst of all the loss. Seeing this, Heiji makes a decision. It's not safe for them here. Gio holds the puppy protectively, a glimmer of hope returning to his eyes. Heiji gestures for him to follow her, leading them away from the scene and deeper into the city. They walk through the streets, Heiji taking the lead while Gio follows, cradling the small puppy. She decides to take him to her home. They arrive at a tall apartment building, a place completely foreign to Gio. He steps inside, his eyes wide with amazement. The concept of a clean, warm home is something he hasn't experienced in years. Clutching the sleeping puppy, he looks around, completely dazed and overwhelmed by the simple domesticity of the apartment. Heiji smiles warmly, putting down her bag and welcoming him into her space. She tells him to make himself at home, but Gio is still hesitant, unsure of how to act in such a normal environment. As he stands there, he catches a glimpse of his reflection in a mirrored door. For the first time, he sees his own face, fully restored. The shock sends him reeling. He scrambles towards the mirror, his eyes wide with disbelief, as Heiji watches in confusion. He grabs Heiji excitedly, trying to explain the impossible sight he's seeing in the mirror. She just looks at him, completely baffled. He remembers what he used to look like: a walking skeleton, a monstrous creature barely resembling a human. But now, staring back at him is the face of a normal young man. The years of torment and transformation have been wiped away. He is whole again. Heiji, still reeling from his outburst, takes a long drink of water to calm her nerves. Gio stands before the door, holding the now awake puppy, his expression a mix of awe and confusion as he stares at his reflection. Lost in thought, he starts counting on his fingers, trying to make sense of the face staring back at him. He tries to calculate his own age, piecing together fragments of his past being trapped in a lab, endless experiments, and the passing of seasons since his escape. His strange behavior makes Heiji spit out her water in a fit of laughter. She asks him what's so funny, and Gio, with a straight face, tells her that he's 17 years old. Upon hearing they're the same age, Heiji's entire demeanor changes. She drops the formal tone and speaks to him like a close friend. Gio looks flustered by her sudden shift in attitude. Heiji is stunned for a moment, then smiles, realizing the strange boy in front of her is the same age she is. Gio, still holding the puppy, seems taken aback by her friendly demeanor, not used to this kind of casual interaction. With their relationship now on more equal footing, Heiji announces that it's time to eat and tells him to go wash up. Gio shyly agrees. While he's gone, the hungry puppy dives headfirst into its food bowl. After washing up, Gio sits down to a proper meal for the first time in what feels like a lifetime. He eats ravenously, stuffing his face with food. Heiji watches him with a warm smile, happy to see him eating so well. She offers him more rice. With a huge grin and food still on his face, Gio eagerly accepts her offer. After the meal, Heiji washes the dishes while Gio sits at the table, watching her. This simple domestic scene is entirely new to him. He ate everything she put out, leaving the plates and bowls completely empty. Once the kitchen is clean, Heiji points towards the couch, telling him he can rest there for the night. She hands him a blanket. Gio looks at the soft fabric, a stark contrast to the cold, hard floors he's used to. Heiji wishes him a good night with a cheerful smile and turns off the lights. Gio is left alone in the quiet living room, clutching the blanket. For the first time, he's in a safe, comfortable place. He looks around the darkened room, a sense of unease still lingering despite the comfort. He hesitantly touches the soft cushions of the couch, then collapses onto it, the feeling of comfort almost overwhelming. He realizes this is so much better than anything he ever experienced at the Institute. But his peace is shattered by a sudden noise. The puppy starts choking on its food. Gio's expression shifts from relaxed to concerned as he looks over at the struggling animal. The puppy coughs and spits out the food, its small body trembling. Gio lets out a huge sigh of relief, his brief moment of panic subsiding. He rushes over to the puppy, glad that it's okay. His protective instincts are already in full force. He pats the puppy gently, his movements slow and clumsy, as if he's forgotten how to be gentle. The puppy, unfazed, just looks up at him with wide, curious eyes. Later that night, Gio lies on the couch, a genuine smile on his face as the puppy sleeps on the pillow next to him. For the first time, he feels at peace. He's so happy that he snuggles with a pillow, imagining it's the puppy, a playful and content look on his face. He whispers to the sleeping puppy, promising to take good care of it. Holding the puppy close, he feels a sense of warmth and happiness he's never known before. He finally has something to protect, something to care for. He gently pats the puppy's head as it sleeps soundly, his heart full. A small, genuine smile graces his lips. This is happiness. This is what it feels like. This simple bowl of rice with an egg was the best meal he's had in years. The bath was the first warm one he's ever had. These simple pleasures are a revelation to him. He remembers the warm water of the bath, a sensation so foreign and wonderful that it brought a blush to his cheeks. Even the puppy enjoyed the bath, splashing around happily with him. As he drifts off to sleep, curled up on the soft couch with the puppy beside him, Gio feels a profound sense of peace. But even in his dreams, the darkness of his past lingers. The scene shifts to a flashback. A younger Gio, still in his skeletal form, leads a group of other children in a desperate escape from the Institute. He recalls the alarms blaring, and the heavily armed guards swarming the halls, announcing the escape of the high-tier mutants. An explosion rocks the facility, sending bodies flying. The escapees are caught in the blast, the ceiling collapsing around them. The guards close in, their rifles aimed and ready. But the children fight back. One of them unleashes a powerful blast of fire. Another, a girl with fierce eyes, conjures sharp shards of ice, protecting her friends. Gio, in his skeletal form, looks back at the chaos, his one visible eye filled with determination. Another boy uses his power to manipulate the ground, creating a barrier to shield them from the debris. The girl with the ice powers reaches out a hand, her voice filled with desperation. He reaches for her, their hands just barely missing each other as the chaos of the escape rips them apart. Gio could only watch as his friends were forced to flee in a different direction, leaving him to find the exit alone. The memory of their separation still haunts him. Back in the present, Gio wakes up with a start, the nightmare still fresh in his mind. He reaches for the puppy, needing the reassurance of its presence. But his hand finds nothing but an empty space on the pillow. The puppy is gone. His heart, a dark, twisted mass with a glowing core, pounds in his chest. His brief moment of happiness is shattered. A terrifying rage builds within him. His eyes glow with a menacing light as the trauma of loss consumes him once more. He will not let his happiness be taken from him again. Panic and fury surge through him. The small bit of peace he found has been ripped away, and the monster inside begins to awaken. As Songhae-ji gets ready to leave, Gio blankly asks about school, a word that feels foreign to him after so many years in isolation. She simply waves goodbye, telling him to take good care of the puppy while she's gone. But the moment the door closes, the little puppy starts scratching and whining, wanting to follow her. It paws desperately at the door, not wanting to be left behind. The two are left staring down at the energetic puppy, unsure of what to do with it now. A dark, unsettling smile creeps across Gio's face as he gets an idea. Heiji looks back at him, a bead of sweat running down her face, clearly unnerved by his sudden change in demeanor. Gio confidently announces that he'll just have to train the puppy himself. She points at the cabinet, sternly telling him to put the puppy back, but Gio, holding the small dog, doesn't seem to be listening. The scene shifts to a painful memory. A younger Gio is outside, but the simple act of playing with a jump rope turns into a nightmare as it accidentally hits two small puppies. He can still hear their yelps of pain as the rope strikes them again and again. The memory is vivid, filled with the puppy's cries of terror. Back then, he was helpless, clutching his head in agony as the trauma unfolded. It wasn't just a memory of an accident, but of horrific experiments in torture, the feeling of electric shock searing through him. The real source of his trauma wasn't just the rope, but a bully who appeared and began kicking the puppies while Gio could only watch in horror. Snapping back to that moment, a young Gio stands frozen, holding the jump rope, the world around him fading away. Suddenly, something inside him snaps, his eyes widen in pure rage. Overwhelmed by fury and helplessness, he lets out a desperate, agonizing scream. He runs, blindly, desperately trying to escape the torment in his mind. His panicked flight ends with him tumbling headfirst into a pile of garbage. He scrambles out, only to find himself wedged under a car, his terror escalating. Defeated, he collapses in an alley, sobbing uncontrollably against a trash can. He sits up, scratching his head in a daze, utterly lost and broken by the resurfaced trauma. These painful memories seem to bleed into the present, as elsewhere, a small puppy finds itself in a similar, terrifying situation, wandering directly into the path of a speeding truck. The poor animal isn't alone, it's being chased by a group of cruel thugs who are filming its terror for their own sick amusement. Back in the present, Gio clutches his head, tears streaming down his face as the traumatic memories overwhelm him. As the panic subsides, he looks up from the alley he'd collapsed in and sees a school in the distance, the sounds of students playing reaching his ears. And there, hiding in the bushes just outside the school grounds, is the little puppy watching the students play soccer. A surge of adrenaline hits him. Gio takes off, sprinting towards the school with everything he's got. A man who appears to be a teacher on patrol sees him, his face scrunching up in annoyance at the student running in the halls. But Gio blazes past him in an instant, moving too fast for the teacher to even react. The teacher is left standing in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the impossible speed he just witnessed. Gio moves so fast, he leaves cracks in the pavement, leaping up the stairs and into the school grounds in a single bound. He finally reaches the field where the students are still caught up in their soccer game. Hiding behind a tree to catch his breath, his eyes scan the area, desperately searching for the puppy. His attention is drawn to a group of students nearby, huddled together watching a video on a tablet. On the screen is a bloody, horrifying scene from what looks like a lab, and a news ticker discusses the trafficking of heart mutants and the massive reward for their capture. Hearing this, a single tear falls from Gio's eye. He realizes that in this world, he's not a person, he's a 1,000,000,001 bounty waiting to be claimed. Just then, the puppy happily scampers out of the bushes, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. At the same time, a group of popular girls are busy filming a dance challenge for their social media. The girl in the center, Minjong, smirks at her phone, confident in her social media fame, while her friends look on. She glances around, a smug look on her face, clearly aware that she's the center of attention at the school. Suddenly, their attention is diverted as the small puppy runs right up to them. Delighted, Minjong immediately scoops the puppy into her arms for a tight hug. Without missing a beat, she starts recording a new video, using the cute puppy as a prop for her next post. But as she poses for a selfie, a new face suddenly appears in the frame. It's Gio, reflected in her phone screen. The girls let out a scream, completely startled by his sudden appearance right behind them. Gio sheepishly steps out from behind the tree, apologizing for frightening them. He just wants to get the puppy back. With a small leaf still stuck in his hair from hiding, he looks at them with an earnest and slightly tired expression, creating a surprisingly charming image. The girl's initial shock quickly melts away, replaced by instant fascination, as they blush and swoon over the handsome stranger who just appeared. Completely unused to this kind of attention, Gio grows flustered and awkward. He has no idea how to react as the girls continue to swoon over him. They eagerly ask him to be friends, wanting to get his number and follow him on social media. Minjong pulls up her social media profile, ready to add him on the spot. She holds out her phone, confidently asking for his Insta ID so she can tag him. Her friends whisper excitedly, thinking his shy confusion is just an act to play hard to get. But Gio is genuinely baffled. Having spent a decade in a lab, he has no idea what an Insta ID even is. Minjiang presses him again, her smile unwavering, still believing he's just being coy. Gio, completely overwhelmed, turns away from them, an action the girls immediately misinterpret as a cold rejection. Minjiang's smile falters, her expression hardening. She's not used to being ignored. Thinking he's just being difficult, she holds her phone out again. Gio, trying to be polite, simply bows and insists he doesn't know what she's talking about. Her friendly mask finally shatters, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated rage. Tired of the conversation, Gio simply takes the puppy back from her, much to her annoyance. His social awkwardness continues as he holds the puppy up to his mouth, which only confuses and angers Minjong more. Watching from the sidelines, a student named Jo Taegu sees the interaction, his eyes glowing red with fury. As Gio holds the puppy, the girls can only stare in disbelief at how he just brushed off the most popular girl in school. Taegu stomps over with his friends, furious that some nobody is talking to Minjong. Gio remains completely oblivious, gently petting the puppy, happy to have his friend back. Taegu grits his teeth, his face contorted in a mask of pure jealousy and rage. He storms the field and lines up a shot, kicking a soccer ball with all his might. The ball flies like a missile, warping from the sheer force of the kick. It rockets directly towards Gio's head, giving him no time to react. Instinct takes over. Instead of dodging, Gio twists his body, using himself as a shield to protect the puppy as the ball smashes into the side of his head. One of the girls watches in shock as Gio stumbles from the blow. Taegu immediately rushes over, throwing his hands up in a display of fake concern, pretending it was just a misplaced kick. He quickly tries to calm Minjong down, insisting that his friend just made a mistake with the kick. Gio remains silent, hunched over. But when Gio looks up, his nose is bleeding, and his eyes are filled with a cold, terrifying intensity. Even the puppy is growling, sensing the danger. Taegu's fake friendly act disappears, replaced with a mocking grin as he points at Gio, ready to escalate the fight. Sensing he's losing control, Taegu switches tactics again, putting on a show of deep remorse to try and calm the situation down. Gio simply stares back at him, his expression unreadable, still cradling the frightened puppy. Then, a faint, unnerving smile plays on Gio's lips. He finally speaks, but his words are not what anyone expected. Taegu and his friends are stunned into silence. Gio hasn't demanded an apology for himself. He calmly states that Taegu needs to apologize. To the puppy. The little dog is now fast asleep in his arms, oblivious. His serene smile in the face of such aggression is deeply unsettling to everyone watching. With that, he turns to walk away, having no interest in fighting a battle that has already been won. Not willing to lose face, Taegu quickly throws a friendly arm around Gio's shoulders, stopping him from leaving. He leans in with a sly grin, offering to buy Gio some bread, as a real apology, a common tactic bullies use to lure their victims into a trap. But Gio, having been starved in a lab for years, hears none of the hidden meaning. His eyes widen, his mouth waters. The only word he registers is bread. He's completely oblivious to the danger. Taegu leads the naive Gio away, a triumphant smirk on his face as his plan falls perfectly into place. As they walk, Gio carefully tucks the sleeping puppy into his jacket, making sure it's safe and warm. He follows along with a bright, genuine smile, truly believing he's just made a new friend. But the second they're in a secluded alley, Taegu's friendly facade drops. He brutally kicks Gio in the back, sending him sprawling. Gio hits the ground, his arms instinctively wrapped around the puppy to shield it from the fall. The trap is sprung. Taegu's cronies step out from the shadows, surrounding Gio with predatory grins. Gio looks up from the ground, now completely surrounded. He finally realizes the offer of bread was just bait, and he walked right into their trap. A group of delinquents corner a boy, Kim Gio, who's just trying to mind his own business while holding a puppy plushie. The leader, Jo Taegu, gets in his face, clearly looking for a fight. Taegu raises his hand, his face twisted in anger, furious that Gio isn't showing any fear. He can't stand being ignored. He grabs Gio by the collar, shouting right in his face. Even the little puppy plushie seems to be growling in protest. Taegu's cronies watch from the sidelines, laughing and smoking, enjoying the show as their leader continues his threats. Gio covers his face with his hand, letting out a heavy sigh. This whole situation is just a massive headache for him. The lackeys continue to sneer, getting closer and mocking Gio for not fighting back, confident that he's an easy target. But then, Gio's expression completely changes. The frustration is gone, replaced by a cold, serious glare. He's had enough. One of the bullies in a green hoodie decides to make the first move, lunging forward with a wild slap. But Gio is faster. In a flash, he counters with a devastating punch, sending blood flying from the bully's mouth. The bully collapses to the ground, out cold. The rest of the gang freezes, their smirks vanishing as they realize they messed with the wrong guy. Taegu's eyes go wide with shock and terror. He can't believe what he just saw. This wasn't supposed to happen. Seeing their friend go down, the remaining bullies roar and charge at Gio all at once, hoping to overwhelm him with numbers. Suddenly, a strange energy pulses. Something inside Gio awakens a power that's been dormant for far too long. The fight is a blur. Gio moves like a phantom, effortlessly dodging and weaving through their attacks before sending another one flying with a spinning kick. He ducks under a punch and slams his fist straight into Taegu's face, who is completely powerless to stop him. The force of the blow is immense, smashing Taegu's head into the brick wall behind him and cracking it. Gio calmly looks down at his bruised knuckles, seemingly unfazed. Beside him, the puppy plushie wears a smug little grin. The last few bullies standing are completely terrified, screaming in horror at the sight of their defeated friends and the cracked wall. They try to flee, but Gio is too quick, effortlessly tripping one up as he dispatches the others. The beatdown is total. Taegu stares up at the shattered bricks, his mind unable to process the sheer power behind that punch. No ordinary human could do that. He slumps to the ground, defeated and utterly broken, staring up at the boy who just dismantled his entire crew. Overcome with absolute terror, Taegu breaks down completely, crying and slobbering. He finally understands he's not dealing with a person, but a monster. He immediately gets on his hands and knees, bowing his head to the ground in a desperate plea for mercy. Then, in a desperate attempt to save himself, Taegu pulls out his phone. Noticing Gio's puppy plushie, he frantically shows him a picture of his own cute dog, hoping they can bond over their shared love for animals. Gio just stares, completely bewildered by the sudden shift from violence to a pet show and tell. He has no idea how to react to this bizarre situation. A strange scene unfolds, as Taegu desperately tries to befriend the boy who just beat him up. Suddenly, a stomach growl cuts through the tension. It's Gio! He's hungry. Gio's stomach keeps rumbling, a fact that doesn't escape his own notice, though his expression remains as stoic as ever. He nonchalantly tells Taegu that he needs to eat, his tone less of a request and more of a simple statement of fact. This image is the cover for the chapter, showing a female student at her desk. It's not part of the main story sequence. Misinterpreting this as another threat, Taegu immediately rushes Gio to the school store. Gio's eyes light up with pure, childish excitement at the sight of so much food. He looks like he's never seen a convenience store before. Taegu, in his panic, has bought him one of everything. As Taegu watches Gio eat, he remembers the punch that cracked the wall. He realizes Gio's hand should have been shattered, but it's completely fine. A cold sweat runs down his back. This kid isn't normal. The memory of the one-sided beatdown flashes through his mind. The way his friend was sent flying. The casual, effortless power. It was monstrous. Taegu realizes he's in way over his head. This isn't just some tough transfer student. He's dealing with a real-life mutant, something straight out of the news. Panicked, he excuses himself to make a phone call, his hand trembling as he dials. He needs to call in some serious backup. On the other end of the line is Na Young-chul, a 20-year-old thug, looking bored as he plays cards in some shady backroom. Taegu whispers frantically into the phone, telling Young-chul he's found a mutant and needs him to come deal with it. Young-chul seems completely uninterested, telling Taegu to handle his own high school squabbles. He's got more important things to do. But when Taegu repeats the word mutant, Young-chul's demeanor changes instantly. The boredom vanishes, replaced by sharp, predatory interest. A mutant is a high-value target. Young-chul tells him to keep the target there and not let him go. Taegu forces a smile, assuring him that everything is under control. Hanging up, Taegu puts on a friendly, almost sinister grin. His plan is set. He just has to stall for time until the professionals arrive. He returns to Gio, offering him a melon bread as a sign of friendship, the first step in his plan to keep Gio occupied. Gio is hesitant at first, but Taegu insists, pushing the bread into his hand while still on the phone, likely getting final instructions. With a cheerful smile, Taegu offers Gio even more food sausages and soda, acting like they're the best of friends. Gio, oblivious to the danger, seems to be warming up to him. While Gio enjoys the snacks, he even shares a piece with his little puppy plushie. It's a sweet, innocent moment. But Taegu is barely paying attention. His eyes are glued to his phone, thinking about the massive reward for capturing a mutant. This could be his big break. He pulls up an article about another mutant who was recently captured, his mind racing. Could Gio be the same type? Is he really that dangerous? His thoughts are interrupted when the puppy plushie spits a mouthful of soda all over the floor. Taegu stares in disbelief. Gio panics, screaming in distress as the little plushie rolls around on the floor, seemingly choking on the soda. Taegu can only watch, completely baffled by the absurd scene. He called a high-level gangster to deal with. This? A kid having a meltdown over his stuffed animal. He starts to think maybe this was all a huge mistake. Back at the hideout, Young-chul gets the call. He slams the table in fury, sending cards and chips flying. He's furious that Taegu is trying to get him involved in some petty high school drama. He yells into the phone that he's a busy man, gesturing to his gang who are all waiting on him. He doesn't have time for this. But Taegu insists, telling him this is different. He's found a real-life mutant, right here. As he speaks, he watches Gio, who is now carefully cleaning his injured puppy plushie. Young-chul's tone immediately sharpens. A mutant? That word changes everything. He orders Taegu to stall him, to do whatever it takes to keep him there. So, Taegu's brilliant plan to stall for time is taking the monster to a local arcade. Gio stares in wonder, completely captivated by the lights and sounds. He's clearly never been to a place like this before. Seeing the look of pure, unadulterated joy on Gio's face, Taegu is taken aback. This dangerous mutant is blushing like a kid in a candy store. Taegu asks if he really has never been to an arcade. Gio just shakes his head, still mesmerized by everything around him. He's especially drawn to a claw machine, pressing his face against the glass like a little kid, completely fascinated by the prizes inside. Seeing his chance to stall, Taegu offers to win one for him. He expertly maneuvers the claw and actually manages to grab a purple cat plushie, much to Gio's amazement. Gio hugs the new plushie, beaming with a happiness so pure it's almost blinding. Taegu watches, a strange feeling creeping into his gut. This isn't what he expected at all. He can't help but feel a little proud of himself, seeing how happy he's made the kid. For a moment, he forgets he's supposed to be luring him into a trap. Next on the tour, Taegu points out the coin karaoke booths. Gio looks on, curious about this new experience. Inside, they sit side by side. Gio looks through the songbook with a blank expression, while Taegu just smiles, actually starting to enjoy himself. When Taegu asks what song he wants to sing, Gio admits he only knows one. It's a song his mom taught him. The song that appears on the screen isn't some cool pop song. It's a children's nursery rhyme with cartoon monkeys and bears. But Gio sings it with all his heart, pouring a surprising amount of emotion into the simple, childish lyrics. When the song ends, he stands there silently, a shadow falling over his face. The happy mood is suddenly gone. Taegu watches him, a growing sense of unease washing over him. He's starting to realize there's a deep sadness to this kid. He tries to lighten the mood, suggesting they sing a more exciting song, but the look on Gio's face stops him cold. Something is terribly wrong. It's in that moment Taegu feels a twinge of real guilt. With a newfound determination, Taegu tells Gio that he has an amazing voice, and that he should live life to the fullest. He's not just stalling anymore, he's genuinely trying to cheer him up. He grabs the drumsticks and starts pounding away, creating a loud, chaotic rhythm to break the heavy silence. Gio looks up, startled, but also a little intrigued. Their arcade tour continues. They play fighting games together, and Taegu is surprised to find he's actually having fun with the guy he was terrified of just an hour ago. They even play a button-mashing game where Gio accidentally slams his foot down so hard he nearly breaks the machine, much to Taegu's amusement. As they take a break from a dance game, Taegu watches Gio. He sees not a monster, but just a lonely kid who's never had a chance to be normal, and a profound sense of guilt washes over him. Forgetting the whole plan, they even end up taking some four-cut friendship photos together. Taegu poses like a tough guy, but he can't hide the genuine smile on his face. In this brief moment, they're not bully and victim, they're just two friends hanging out. After their fun, Gio offers Taegu a bottle of water. Taegu, surprisingly touched by the small gesture of kindness, chugs it down gratefully. But his moment of peace is shattered by a sharp pain in his stomach. He clutches his side, his face contorting in agony. The stress of the day is finally getting to him. He pulls out his phone to call Youngchul and call off the hit. He can't go through with it. Not after getting to know Gio. Taegu starts to frantically explain that it was all a misunderstanding. He claims Gio isn't a mutant, just a normal, if slightly weird, high school kid. As he talks, he looks down at the photo strip from the arcade, a goofy smile on his face. He remembers the fun they had, the laughter, the weird karaoke song. He remembers the ridiculous heart pose they made. And for the first time, he sees Gio not as a monster or a target, but as a friend. As he stands there, lost in thought, he doesn't notice the group of thugs walking up behind him. It's Youngchul and his crew. They found him. Suddenly, Youngchul's voice cuts through the air, sharp and menacing. Taegu's blood runs cold. It's too late. He spins around and immediately bows deeply, trying to apologize and explain, but he knows it's useless. He messed up. Youngchul and his thugs surround him, their faces cold and unforgiving. The friendly atmosphere of the arcade is gone, replaced by the grim reality of the streets. Meanwhile, Gio is back in the karaoke booth, quietly holding his puppy plushie, completely unaware of the danger his new friend is in. Back in the alley, Taegu remembers Gio telling him that the plushie was the only family he had left. The thought fills him with a profound sense of guilt and sadness. He thinks of his own dog, Bibo Bibi, and starts to cry. He understands now. He understands the loneliness and the desperation that Gio must feel. Gio, sensing his friend's distress, places a comforting hand on his shoulder. It's a small gesture, but it means the world to Taegu. He can't betray this kid. He won't. With a new resolve, Taegu clenches his fist. He made a promise, and he's going to keep it. He'll protect Gio, no matter what. But his bravery is short-lived. Youngchul delivers a brutal punch to his gut, doubling him over in pain. There's no talking his way out of this. Youngchul grabs him by the hair, his face a mask of cold fury. He demands to know where the mutant is, his voice dripping with menace. The wholesome day out has just taken a very dark turn. In a grimy back alley, a group of thugs corners their target, their voices dripping with menace as they demand answers. Their leader, a large man in a floral shirt, grabs Joe Taegu by the hair, forcing him to his knees. The other members of the gang just stand by and watch. Terrified, Taegu begs for mercy, his face contorted in pain and fear. In a desperate attempt to protect his friend, Taegu lies, claiming the person they're looking for is just a weakling who passed out playing an arcade game. But the thug leader sees right through the lie, a smug and cruel grin spreading across his face. He knows Taegu is hiding something. He puts on a friendly act, wrapping his arm around Taegu as if they're close friends. He explains that there's a huge bounty on so-called heart mutants. The boss laughs mockingly, finding it amusing that someone would be worried about them. He belittles his opponent, finding his concern cute. Suddenly, a hand reaches out, interrupting the one-sided conversation. Ignoring the interruption, the boss grabs Taegu's head, telling him he has 5 seconds to reveal the truth. The boss then reveals a photo on his phone of someone in a strange mask, claiming this is the mutant they're after. Taegu realizes he's in over his head. Just then, Kim Gio, the very person they're looking for, appears. His hand trembles slightly, not from fear, but from suppressed anger. Before the boss can even react, Gio sends him flying with a powerful kick to the jaw. He lands perfectly, his eyes fixed on the gang, ready for their next move. Seeing this, something snaps in Taegu. He grits his teeth, finding the courage to finally stand up to his tormentors. But his defiance earns him a brutal beating from the rest of the gang, who swarm him without mercy. The scene shifts to the past. A younger Taegu, dressed in a school uniform, is helplessly beaten on the ground. This was his life, before he met the gang. He curls up, trying to shield his head, as the blows continue to rain down on him. A group of relentless bullies surrounded him back then, their faces twisted with aggression as they pulled his hair and shirt. He was trembling, completely powerless against his attackers. That's when a different thug appeared, a younger version of the current boss. He saved Taegu, manipulating the boy into thinking this violent life was something to aspire to. Back in the present, Taegu lies defeated on the pavement, bloody and bruised from his attempt to fight back. The boss crouches over him, letting out a heavy sigh as if disappointed by Taegu's betrayal. Tired of the games, the boss grabs a heavy metal chain, ready to inflict some serious pain. He wraps the chain tightly around his fist, a sadistic smile spreading across his face as he gets ready to make an example out of Taegu. The entire gang gathers to watch their leader punish the one who dared to defy him, leaving Taegu with no hope of escape. The boss's face contorts with rage as he prepares to deliver a brutal blow. He swings the chain-wrapped fist with full force, aiming straight for Taegu's head. But just as the chain is about to connect, it stops. Kim Jio's hand clamps down on the boss's wrist, halting the attack with impossible strength. The boss is stunned. He can't believe the skinny kid could stop his attack so easily. Taegu looks on in disbelief. Jio calmly tells the gang members to take their boss and leave, all while holding a small puppy plushie. Overwhelmed with guilt, Taegu breaks down, apologizing for getting Jio involved and telling him to run away. But Jio simply tells him to stay put, showing no signs of fear. Infuriated by Jio's calm demeanor, one of the thugs swings a baseball bat right at his head. The rest of the gang joins in, brutally beating Jio with their weapons, but he doesn't even try to fight back. One of the thugs, panting from exhaustion, can't believe Jio is still standing after all that. He wonders if he's even human. Suddenly, Jio's fist flies out, smashing into the thug's face and sending a tooth flying. The thug collapses, and the rest of the gang realizes the fight has just begun. Jio is done taking their hits. With a cold, determined look, Jio starts walking slowly towards the remaining thugs. They surround him, weapons raised, but there's a hint of fear in their eyes now. The fight erupts. A thug leaps into the air with a pipe, but Jio effortlessly dispatches another attacker, unfazed. He moves like lightning, taking out multiple opponents at once. They fall before they even know what hit them. With chilling precision, he delivers a devastating blow to another thug's jaw. He ducks under a wild swing from a bat, and counters with a brutal strike of his own, shattering the thug's stance. In a flash, he grabs another by the neck, his expression completely calm as the thug struggles in his grip. Seeing his men get taken down one by one, the boss panics. He pulls out a large knife and charges forward with a crazed look in his eyes. He lunges and plunges the knife deep into Jio's chest. Blood splatters everywhere. The boss twists the knife, sure that this is the final blow. But Jio just looks down at the blade sticking out of his chest, completely unfazed by the fatal wound. Jio calmly takes the knife from his own chest, breaking the handle with a simple flick of his finger. With blood still dripping from the corner of his mouth, he stares blankly at the weapon, his expression unreadable. Then, in one swift motion, he turns the weapon around and stabs the boss, who can only scream in pain and terror. The remaining thugs, witnessing this horror, don't hesitate for a second. They turn and run for their lives. But it's too late. Jio's eyes glow a menacing red as he moves in a blur, taking down the fleeing thugs one by one. A switch has flipped. The calm, quiet boy is gone, replaced by a cold, efficient predator. His eyes are filled with an unnerving light, signaling that he's no longer holding back. In the aftermath, Jio stands tall amidst the bodies of the defeated thugs. The wound in his chest has already vanished. Even his dog seems unfazed. His cold gaze falls upon the last conscious person in the alley. It's Taegu, who scrambles backward in fear, now fully understanding the monstrous power Jio possesses. Jio walks toward him, wiping the last traces of blood from his chest, as if it were just a speck of dust. The stab wound is completely gone. As he approaches, Taegu flinches, expecting the worst. Taegu immediately starts bowing his head to the ground, apologizing profusely for his betrayal. He's completely broken, sobbing on the pavement, filled with regret. He cries, admitting how pathetic he's been. Jio watches him for a moment, then holds out what looks like a folded cloth. He offers it to Taegu, telling him to use it to wipe the blood from his face. Confused, Taegu looks at the object. It's a puppy pee pad. He wonders if Jio is making fun of him. But then Jio explains that Taegu stood up for him, calling him a friend. He says that's what's truly cool. Taegu takes the pad, his hands trembling. Jio gives him a small, genuine smile. For the first time, he doesn't seem like a monster, but a real friend. Hearing those words, Taegu is completely stunned. He looks at the pee pad in his hand, a strange mix of emotions welling up inside him. Overwhelmed by Jio's unexpected kindness and forgiveness, Taegu begins to cry uncontrollably. He pulls Jio into a tight hug, sobbing into his shoulder, finally letting go of all his fear and guilt. And so, surrounded by the wreckage of the gang, an unlikely friendship is forged, proving that true strength isn't about violence, but about forgiveness.